Hello, hello, I'm Gads, and welcome to today's video. So we're continuing on with the Epics Only Challenge tournaments. In this case, it is going to be the Fire Knight's Castle. However, there is a special instance, which is why I'm kind of filming this a day early, because I want to get this out sooner rather than later so that people know what is going on. So it is not yet live. It goes live tomorrow, at least at the time of this recording, but you'll see here that there is a key, and this is one of the keys that's associated with Heroes Paths, and of course that is going to correspond with the after party path, where presumably we should be getting up to a 5-star soul for Lord Entertainer Fabian, the most recent fusion. Super powerful champion. Hopefully you guys got him as well. I definitely did. And yeah, so one of the keys, who knows how many keys there are going to be. This path goes live tomorrow as well at the time of this recording. But this is the first time they've offered a key for the Heroes Path outside of the Heroes Path itself. I believe that this is going to be champion training and summon rush. So we'll see what those milestones are tomorrow. I'll definitely cover that in a separate dedicated free-to-play review for the after party path. But yeah, today's focus is going to be on getting you guys ready for the Fire Knight tournament Epics Only that starts tomorrow. And if you were curious, I did complete the Dragon tournament all the way out there to the Immortal Soulstone. Just barely. I believe I got like 62 points. So barely, just enough. And that managed to get me 5th place, which is pretty cool. But yeah, let's hop over to the Fire Knight's Castle and talk about what the best stages to farm are. Unless you are super endgame, I recommend that you do this challenge on normal mode, just because it's a lot easier. You don't have to worry about freeze. Obviously, Newt is off the table because he's not an epic, and so that just makes it a lot harder to actually deal damage. And Cold Heart is also off the table because she is a rare, in case you wanted to downgrade to her for the enemy max HP hits. So if you, like me, are sticking with normal mode, then Stage 25 does offer you the best gear quality. Stage 20 offers you the best efficiency in terms of points per energy, which can be the best way to go about it for some of these one-off tournaments that are only last a couple of days, if you want to minimize the amount of energy it's going to cost. And then if you're, early game, mid game, or you're just struggling to beat Fire Knight with only epics, then dropping down to Stage 16, no shame. It's Void Affinity, much easier to complete. You don't have to worry about negative affinity matchups, and you still have a chance to get 6-star gear. So the team I have to share with you guys today is for Stage 25, and we do have all epics, of course, and we're bringing in Allure. Obviously, she is the #1 turn meter control champion for single target encounters, of which this is one, but also this triple hitter on the A1 is strong for getting the shield down. We're bringing in Stag Knight as our primary debuffer. He offers decreased speed on the A1, which is a double hitter, and then of course the AoE decreased defense and decreased attack, which helps us take less damage and deal more damage to the waves. We're bringing in Fenax and Magnar as our DPS pairing here. Those can be anyone you happen to use. If you're doing Stage 25 as well, you do want to make sure that your nukers are Magic, Spirit, or Void Affinity. And then we're bringing in Vogoth as well. He has a triple hitter on the A1, but he's serving as our protector in case we do get hit with AoEs. He can heal us up with the passive. He's also in a bolster set, which can protect us from damage as well. And then obviously he has a triple hitter on the A1, which is good from when we get to the Fire Knight shield on wave 3. Now what you might notice out of the gate is that we don't have any ally attack, counter attack in this team. That is definitely an option that can make it a lot easier to break the shield. But in this case, we're taking advantage, and we'll go through the builds later, but we're taking advantage of the fact that we are relatively faster compared to the Fire Knight. And so we're going to be able to take 2 turns for every one of his. And so a lot of the champions will get 2 chances to do their A1s or whatever, do their triple hitters, etc., and break the shield and loop back around. So we'll get to see that in action. And in fact, let's just go ahead and run the team, and I'll talk a little bit about the AI overrides for this squad. So Stag Knight is the fastest on the team. So I have opener don't use, as always, for those of you who are familiar with my style of team compositions. Opener don't use on the debuffing ability from Stag Knight. So we want to make sure that he has the decreased defense, decreased attack ready to go once we get around to wave 2. Fenax, I allow him to do his AoE, and then I turn off his A3 just because it's just not as useful compared to the A1. It doesn't hit as hard, and it doesn't have the chance to block revive, which is just kind of fun. Obviously, there's no revivers in these waves, but nonetheless, it's pretty nice. Allure, we do have her A3 turned off, but I do let her do her A2, as you can see there, just because she has Cruelty as a blessing, and so a little bit of defense reduction AoE just kind of helps. And in case, or I guess in instances where Stag Knight happened to get resisted or something like that, she can also put the weak version of decreased defense out there, so that's pretty darn handy. But here we go, wave 2, rinse and repeat. Opener don't use on the Stag Knight, and then, Fenax and Magnar are going to do their things. So what's kind of cool here is that if Fenax doesn't place block buffs, then he also has a chance to place block active skills, which is like the block buffs is not 100%, but if he fails to place the block buffs, then the block active skills is 100%. So he kind of is doing a little bit of CC as well on top of the Vogoth. But yeah, pretty nice, pretty handy there. And yeah, we're pretty much good to go. You can see that this is going to be around a minute or so per wave, give or take. It kind of depends on the RNG, you know, cycle of violence procs and stuff like that, how often or how quickly the AoE cycle through. Obviously, Fenix's A1 is an absolute menace in this squad. Magnar is a pretty decent DPS as well. But yeah, once Fenix goes here, we should be on to the boss. So just over 90 seconds. And then here is where we have 12 hits into the shield. We're going to spam a lot of A1s as the openers, and then we'll see what I'm talking about, where we lap the boss here. Magnar does this, and then we still have another turn from Fenix. We still have another turn from Allure, Stagnite, sorry. And then we have a turn from Allure. So there you go. So 2 turns for all of them. We break the shield, and then he might still get a turn. Again, this is where like ally attack would be a little bit more efficient. It kind of depends on Allure. If she does happen to get an extra turn like she did right there, she is in a relentless set, then we're basically good to go, and the Fire Knight will never at this point get a turn. And yeah, that's pretty much it. One thing to keep in mind is that if you're doing stage 20 and below, the turn meter effects against the boss are, you know, full power, so to speak. But if you're running above stage 21 and above, they are 50%. So Allure can definitely still do it on her own, but it might be a little bit easier to do it if you break the shield with an ally attacker. This way is a little bit more risky, but nonetheless, it can get it done. And I'm depending on the fact that in most cases, Stagnite is going to place the decreased attack. So even if he does get a turn, he's not going to hit us that hard. And we do have the bolster shield from Vogoth as well at the start, so in case that happens, it's not the end of the world. So here we are coming to the end of the run in just under 3 minutes, which is fairly, you know, it's not super fast, but it is fast enough for an epic only squad for stage 25. So as promised, let's go through the builds on these champion featured on the epics only squad here, starting off with the queen of turn meter control herself, that being Allure. And I guess I'll mention a quick disclaimer here that obviously a lot of my epics are going to be empowered and or have high levels of awakening. That's not mandatory for the success of the run that we just saw. However, having extra stats will speed up the run just because we're able to do a lot more damage. So just keep that in mind if you can't replicate these stats exactly as they are. I think the speeds are more important than all the damage numbers that we're going to be seeing here. But Allure, champion number 1, is in Relentless set, as I mentioned before, and then Perception as well. Her total stats are as follows: 40,000 on the HP, 3,600 on the attack, 2,400 on the defense, 251 on the speed. This is more optimized for Dark Fae. That's why she's just over 250 speed. Doesn't really need to be much faster than that. Full crit rate, because she does need to crit on her A1 to do the turn meter suppression, and then 183 on the crit damage with 411 on the accuracy. Again, that's optimized for Doom Tower Hard Dark Fae, where you need above 350 accuracy to land your debuffs. In terms of the blessing, I mentioned it during the run, but I do run Cruelty on her just because she does a lot of AoE damage, or she has a double hitter AoE, which can reduce the defense of, you know, the waves. But also, once she just starts spamming her A1 against the boss 3 times at random, it's going to stack up the cruelty stacks very, very quickly, because each hit has an instance, or is an individual instance of cruelty proccing. And then for the masteries, fairly standard debuffer stuff on the right hand side of the support tree, and then on the left hand side, we're making the standard crescent moon through the left hand side, and bouncing back to Giant Slayer here, because of course she does have a triple hitter on the A1. Next up, we have Magnar in one of my like super budget Savage sets, and 1 piece of stone skin for the extra HP. His total stats are as follows: 88,000 on the HP, 2,500 on the defense, 173 on the speed. So very, very slow, which is why he's kind of just like a PvE style champion DPS. Full crit rate, 211 on the crit damage, and then we don't care about his accuracy or his resistance. As you might expect on the blessing here, we're rocking Crushing Rend, and so, you know, this is just to deal a little bit more damage. Ideally, this would be 6-star, but I'm not going to pay for the souls and whatnot to get it all the way up there. He's not a core champion or anything like that, so it's not that important. But if he does happen to get 6-star, then he has the right blessing for the job. Then when it comes to the masteries, they are partially complete. We're mainly optimizing here around him maximizing the damage, particularly from the first hit or when he's full HP. And so we're picking up, you know, a Heart of Glory, Ruthless Ambush, working our way all the way down to Helm Smasher, of course, to maximize the amount of ignored defense potential he could do, and then getting a little bit of stuff from the defense tree, but not too imperative for him to have full blown masteries. Next up, we have Stagnite, our primary debuffer here in a shield set with Immortal to increase the size of the shield. Total stats are as follows: 69,000 on the HP, 3,300 on the defense, 264 on the speed, and then 481 on the accuracy. This is arbitrarily high. I really don't remember why his accuracy is so high. Maybe it's just that, you know, no one's really in a shield set, so it's just high stats. But all you would need for normal mode is like 250 accuracy, so way overkill. And then for the blessing, we're rocking cruelty just like Allure because he's already a debuffer on his A2, so we might as well take advantage of the fact that he's going to be doing AoE decrease defense and lower it a bit more with the cruelty blessing. Then for the masteries, standard debuffer masteries once again, the entirety of the right hand side of the support tree with Sniper, Master, Hexer, and then hugging the entirety of the left hand side of the offense tree, coming down to War Master as our T6. Next up we have Vogoth, my only champion in a bolster set, which I say every time, and I really hope that like free bolster forge pass comes back in the near term, or maybe like a Deck of Fate for this gear might be more inclined to participate, but I digress. Bolster and Immortal with a little bit of protection for the extra stats. His total stats are as follows: 103,000 on the HP, 2,700 on the defense, 174 on the speed. Super slow, but of course he's just a meat shield, so we don't really need that much speed on him. Maximizing the HP, of course. A little bit of resistance, 467, and then a little bit of accuracy, 232, which is enough, mostly around enough for what we need for these dungeons that we saw there. For the blessing, I just went with commanding presence. There's not really that many options that are good for him, but I do use him in the arena, so every once in a while he can strengthen a little bit of the aura. And then these are arena focused masteries here, mainly focused on a lot of healing from the support tree, a little bit of turn meter, a little bit of extra stats from Lore of Steel, and then our main focus is on the defense tree, lots of the tanky stuff, namely Selfless Defender to take the first hit on behalf of other people, and then Bulwark, which is basically mini Guardian set in terms of what it can offer. And then lastly, we have my super fan axe, lovely +4 empowered 5-star awakened, super fun block revive on the A1 champion, but he is of course in a lethal set. So looking at his total stats, we have 43,000 on the HP, 6.3k on the attack, 2,600 on the defense, 264 on the speed, so fairly fast for a nuker. We want him to get in there and get his A1 off as soon as possible. Full crit rate, 296 on the crit damage, and then a serviceable amount of accuracy, 314. Now, just like Magnar, as you might expect, he is going to have Crushing Rend to ignore as much defense as possible. Again, ideally this would be 6-star, but it's not worth the cost to sacrifice, 6-star for one of my more important legendaries. And then for the masteries, kind of he's built like a nuker as well, focusing predominantly on the offense tree, picking up most of those, and then we're ultimately ending on Helm Smasher, of course, to ignore as much defense as possible. But since I'm going for a hybrid build on him where I do want at least 250, 300 accuracy as well, I did opt to go down the support tree instead of the defense tree, although Retribution could be very, very strong and very, very fatal for your enemies if it goes off at the right time. In terms of other champions you can use, there are tons of epics in the game, so I'm not going to go through every single potential possibility that you could use across all the factions, but I will highlight a handful that are uniquely suited for the Fire Knight's castle. So Allure, we talked about her, or I guess we'll start with turn meter control champions. Allure, we already mentioned her, she's on the team. Skimfos, honorable mention, he has a turn meter steal and then decrease attack and decrease speed in his kit, super good for that. Geomancer, everyone's favorite epic champion, he can also steal turn meter, which is good. Falja does the same thing, and then Fenchi is cool. He's kind of like the Force Affinity. Allure is a 2-turn cooldown, turn meter suppression ability. It's not as good as an A1, but it is decent because it's on a 2-turn cooldown. For debuffers, I highlighted Stagnate, of course, decrease defense, decrease attack, decrease speed. You could also run a Deacon Armstrong for the turn meter control. You can boost your team ahead of him, which could get you more turns into the Fire Knight shield, but also you have the Leech on the A1, so that if you happen to take damage, you can heal up. Gorlos Helma, somewhere around here, but he's a Demon Spawn epic AoE decrease defense champion, and then Tayrell, the AoE decrease defense, but granted on a 4-turn cooldown, but it is decent enough. And then if you do want to go a different route, you want to go the ally attack route, then Farrakhan the Fat is objectively speaking the best ally attack epic in the game. Morag Bronzelock has a mini ally attack. I think it brings in 2 allies, but she's a decent nuker as well. It can help you during the waves. Kinegashi brings in 1 ally, I think, with the turn meter fill, so again, she can help you stay ahead of the Fire Knight shield. Granted, it's only 1 ally being brought in. And then Catacomb Counselor, I believe he's kind of like Farrakhan, but he only has 3 random allies that can be brought in on a team of 5, so someone's going to be left out. Like I mentioned, my tip is that if you're going to run some DPS for the waves, then you're going to want them to be Void Affinity, Spirit Affinity, or Magic Affinity. And then there are so many supports that you can bring in. Ideally, they have multi-hitters on their A1s, but I opted for Vogoth just because I'm being a little bit more aggressive with my team, but the triple hitter does the job, as we saw once we got to wave 3. But there are tons of supports. Whoever you have, put them in and keep your team alive if need be. All right, so that's going to do it for my free-to-play strategy of the Epics Only Fire Knight tournament. Let me know in the comment section down below what team you plan to use. Obviously, once again, this is not yet live, or maybe you can comment after it does go live tomorrow and let me know what team you're going to be running for the purpose of this dungeon. I will once again reiterate that this tournament might be mandatory for those of you who are planning to pursue the Lord Entertainer Fabian Soul, and we may have the one and only key, who knows, that is going to be used in the Hero's Path is featured as part of the tournament, and we have no idea if it's the middle milestone, the low milestone, or the high milestone. So just make sure that you are prepared with a team that can beat at least stage 20, maybe stage 25, you can pull it off, so that you are not caught in the dark when the Hero's Path goes live tomorrow. As always, if you did find this video helpful, then be sure to hit that like button down below. It really does help out the channel, and feel free to hit that subscribe button down below as well if you are enjoying the content overall on this channel for more content just like this one in the future. Thanks for watching, and have a good one.